All right, everybody, buckle up for a deep dive today. We're tackling something a little different.
Oh, different how? You got me intrigued.
Well, a listener sent us this article, right? And it's all about this product, Confitrol24.
Confitrol24. Okay, I'm not familiar. What's the deal with that?
So they found it on TopNaturalHealth.com,
Yeah.
that website we're always browsing.
Yeah, I think I've seen their ads. It's all like natural remedies and stuff.
Exactly. And this Confitrol24, they're claiming it's like the answer to all your bladder control worries. Naturally, of course.
Bladder control. Yeah, that's something people don't always want to talk about, but it's incredibly common. I've done a lot of research in that area, actually.
Right. Like who couldn't use a little more, control in their life?
Well, and especially for women, it's a really prevalent issue for a whole bunch of reasons.
Which is what makes this Confitrol24 so intriguing, right? The article makes some pretty bold claims. Fewer bathroom trips, no more of those, oops moments, even better sleep, they say.
Right. Those are definitely real problems that people experience. In medical terms, we often call it incontinence or sometimes overactive bladder.
And the article kind of skims over the causes, but it mentions aging, childbirth, menopause, like all normal stuff.
Exactly. And it's important to emphasize that these are natural stages of life, and they can have these impacts on the body. There's no shame in it, but it's understandable why people look for solutions.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. What is this Confitrol24? What's the secret sauce they're peddling?
Well, from what I gathered, it's all about the ingredients, right? They highlight three main ones.
Yeah, there's Cratevox, Horsetail, and Lindera, I think it was. It's this trio they're banking on.
And they each have their own supposed benefits, all working together like a, I don't know, well-oiled machine, I guess.
Okay, so before we get into whether any of that holds up, maybe a quick refresher for our listeners. How does bladder control even work in the first place?
Sure. So think of your bladder like a balloon, right? And the pelvic floor muscles, those are like the strong base holding it and controlling when you go. And then you've got nerves sending signals between your brain and your bladder.
So there's this whole communication system going on down there.
Exactly. And Confitrol24, if you believe the hype, is supposed to keep those lines of communication open and everything running smoothly.
And they really push that natural angle, drug-free, all-natural ingredients, which I don't know about you, but that always makes me a little skeptical.
I hear you. It's like just because something comes from nature doesn't automatically mean it's good for you, right?
Exactly. Plants can be powerful and not always in a good way.
Exactly. So we really need to look beyond the marketing and see what the science actually says.
Which is what we plan to do. But first, a quick break. We'll be right back to unpack the evidence, or lack thereof, behind those Confitrol24 claims. Okay, so we've heard the hype, right? Confitrol24, the natural solution to all your bladder woes. But now, let's put on our skeptical hats. What's the evidence?
That's the million-dollar question. The article throws around some pretty big promises. Fewer bathroom trips, less leaking, even better sleep.
Right, and they even have that money-back guarantee. 67 days, they say. What have you got to lose?
I mean, it definitely sounds appealing, but as with anything, especially when it comes to our health, we can't just take their word for it.
Exactly. So what does the science say?
Well, the article does mention a clinical study, which is, a good starting point. But before we get into the nitty-gritty...
Please, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I live for the nitty-gritty.
Okay, well, it's important to remember that everyone's different. What works for one person might not work for another. Our bodies are complex.
So you're saying even if this study had amazing results, doesn't mean everyone's going to have the same experience.
Exactly. And that's something to keep in mind with any kind of health information, not just this product.
Good point. Okay, so back to the study. They found...
So they did see some positive results. Participants reported a decrease in, the urgency and frequency of urination.
So fewer mad dashes to the bathroom. That's a win in my book.
Absolutely. But, and this is important, the study was pretty short term. We don't know if those benefits last beyond, the study period.
Okay, so that's one thing. What else?
This is key. They didn't compare Confitrol24 to other treatments or even a placebo.
Oh, interesting. So it's like saying this cake is good, but we don't know if there are even better cakes out there.
Exactly. It doesn't mean Confitrol24 doesn't work, just that more research is needed to say for sure how well it works and compared to what.
That makes a lot of sense. But I'm sure our listeners are thinking, okay, all this is fascinating, but what can I do right now about my bladder control?
Right. And that's a great question. While this Confitrol24 might be one piece of the puzzle, there are other things you can do, things that are backed by a lot more research.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me everything.
Well, first of all, lifestyle changes can make a big difference, strengthening your pelvic floor muscles, for example.
Oh, right, those Kegels everyone's always talking about. But do those really work?
They can. Those muscles are key for controlling, the flow of urine. And like any muscle, you can strengthen them with exercise.
Makes sense. Anything else we can do?
You'd be surprised. Staying hydrated is super important.
Wait, really? I would have thought drinking less would mean fewer bathroom trips.
It seems counterintuitive, I know. But when you're dehydrated, your urine is more concentrated, which can irritate your bladder.
Huh. Learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
So water, good, got it.
And, of course, caffeine and alcohol, those can definitely make things worse.
Everything in moderation, right?
Exactly. But before we go too far down that road, gotta add our usual disclaimer.
Right. This is not medical advice.
Right. We're just having a conversation. And actually, the Confitrol24 article even mentions that sometimes bladder problems can be a sign of other medical conditions.
So it's always best to talk to your doctor, just in case.
Absolutely. Especially if it's something that's bothering you or not getting better.
Couldn't agree more. It's your health. Better safe than sorry. But I have to say, even without a doctor's visit, I feel like I've learned so much already.
Right. It's amazing how much we don't know about our own bodies.
Speaking of which, our listener who sent in that article, they found it on TopNaturalHealth.com. They have a ton of other stuff on there, too.
Oh, yeah. They've got a whole session on bladder health, if I remember correctly.
And they're giving our listeners a special offer, too. Head over to their website, TopNaturalHealth.com, and use the code DEEPDIVE at checkout.
Nice. Save some money while you're taking control of your health.
Exactly. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're diving even deeper into those Confitrol24 ingredients. What do we really know about them? Stick around. All right, so we promised a deeper dive into those Confitrol24 ingredients, and, well, here we are, ready to uncover the truth behind the hype.
You bet. Let's revisit those three key players, Cratevox, Horsetail, and Lindera. What do we actually know about them?
Cratevox, it's like they were saying it bulks up your bladder muscles or something.
Yeah, they really played up that strengthening aspect. Now, truth be told, there isn't a ton of research specifically on Cratevox and bladder control. Some early studies suggest it might have a mild diuretic effect, but...
Wait, diuretic? Meaning it makes you pee more? That doesn't seem helpful.
Okay, not exactly making you go more, but potentially helping you empty your bladder more completely, which, in theory, could mean fewer trips to the bathroom over time. But again, more research is needed to know for sure.
So, jury's still out on Cratevox. Okay, what about Horsetail? They made it sound like a tiny firefighter putting out inflammation.
It's a nice image, and Horsetail has been used for a long time for different things traditionally. Some small studies do suggest it might have anti-inflammatory properties, but whether that actually translates to bladder health specifically, that's still kind of a question mark.
So, more research needed there too. All right, last but not least, we've got Lindera, our antioxidant hero. What was it about antioxidants that's so good for us?
Oh, antioxidants, they're like our cell protectors. They fight those nasty little molecules called free radicals that can cause damage that can lead to all sorts of health problems. And some researchers believe that this damage, oxidative stress, might even play a role in bladder issues.
So Lindera, with its antioxidant powers, swoops in to save the day.
Well, it'd be great if it were that simple. We don't actually know how much of Lindera's good stuff is actually absorbed by the body, or even if it reaches the bladder in large enough amounts to be effective.
It's like we're trying to solve this puzzle, but we're missing so many pieces.
Exactly. And until we have more research, those questions about long-term effects, they're going to remain unanswered.
Which is why it always comes back to this. Talk to your doctor. Especially before starting any new supplement, right?
100%. They can look at your individual situation, any other health conditions you might have, medications you're taking. It's always best to be safe.
Couldn't agree more. It's your health after all. But hey, even with all these unanswered questions, I feel like we learned a lot today.
Me too. It's fascinating, isn't it? The bladder, I mean. You don't realize how much you don't know until you start digging into it.
Seriously. Big thanks to you, our resident bladder expert, for breaking it all down for us. Always a pleasure.
Anytime. Happy to be here.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another adventure in health and wellness. Until then, stay curious, everybody.